You know that we've had a lot of garbage IPOs over the past year, but we've also had some genuine stars that racked up huge gains, deservedly so. Stars like Upstart, the artificial intelligence-powered lending platform that single-handedly is making credit scores obsolete. Ever since Upstart came public just in December, it's reported 3 incredible quarters, each one better than the last. Earlier this month, they posted some truly spectacular numbers. We're talking about 1,000% revenue growth that's not made up, and a 37-cent earnings beat off a 25-cent basis, management raising their full-year sales forecast from $600 million to $750 million. No wonder the stock is up 80% just since the beginning of August, including a 22% run since the last time I recommended it just 2 weeks ago. At this point, it's already giving you a tenfold gain from its IPO price. I wouldn't be surprised if it's got more room to run. But don't take it from me. Please, let's check in with David Gerard. He's the co-founder and CEO of Upstart. Get a better read on where his company's headed. David, welcome back to Mad Money.
Great to be here, Jim. Thanks.
Okay, now you did just a spectacular number, and it really is great. And I started thinking about what they do in China and artificial lending. The amount of loans you have, I think people think is huge. But is it possible that you could do, I'm not kidding, maybe 1,000 times as many loans as you're doing now?
I mean, for sure, Jim. We are in one product for the most part, just entering our second in one market. So, we're kind of at the very early stages proving out the concept of artificial enabled lending. But in our view, it's applicable to the whole world of credit. And that's a vast, many trillion-dollar opportunity in the future.
Now, it's very clear that the loans that it's not, people should understand, banks hire Dave. It's not like Dave's taking a big risk here. But the loans that you make seem to have incredibly low default rates.
Yeah, that's the idea generally is an AI-enabled system is better at separating good risk from bad risk and making sure that it's approving the right people at the right rate. So, all else being equal, you can approve more people at a significantly lower loss rate. And that's good for the lender, the bank, and it's, of course, good for the consumer as well.
Are you confident that that can be the same in the auto platform?
Yeah, the same principles apply across all flavors of lending. We started in unsecured personal lending. We're just expanding into auto lending, where, of course, there's an asset behind the loan, a car that has recovery value, et cetera. But the principles of knowing more about the consumer, using very sophisticated math to predict who's likely to default and when, is a very central notion that we think can be applied against almost all flavors of lending.
Yeah, David, there's something joyous that you're doing. I want people to understand. I have a lot of friends who, they know I'm in the financial world, so they say, like, yeah, can you fix this FICO thing? My FICO never really kind of keeps track with all the good things that are happening with me. Obviously, you're starting to win over some sophisticated bankers who don't need FICO because they have Upstart.
Yeah, I mean, FICO was a novelty and an incredible innovation, but that was 30 years ago, Jim. And, the idea that a 3-digit number is going to represent anything and everything about you and your creditworthiness is kind of an antiquated notion. So the idea that a much more sort of 360-degree system can really understand you, generally for almost all people means you're actually more creditworthy than that number thinks, and you deserve to be paying less for credit.
There's something else you're doing that I wish people understood is necessary. Spanish speakers. We act as if this country is the same country as it was 40 years ago. There's an incredible population of hardworking people that are like, we just choose to discriminate against. You're changing that.
Yeah, I mean, there's really very few online offerings related to credit that are in Spanish for native Spanish speakers. And you can imagine trying to conduct a fairly complicated financial transaction in a second language. Of course, they'll do it, but why not serve them in their natural language where they feel most comfortable? These are complicated terms. You're signing up for big obligations. And we're just rolling this out now. We're really the first online lending platform with full support for Spanish speakers in the U.S. And we think that's a big part of making the platform more inclusive and more helpful to the people that most need it.
The bargain proposition here is obvious, I guess, because we're seeing the kind of numbers that you're putting up. But how many institutions have you called on that you've won, and how many are there left to go to?
Yeah, sure. Well, there are about 25 banks and credit unions on our platform today. That's up from 10 when we went public last December. So the growth rate is quick and the pipeline is extremely strong. I would be shocked in a couple of years if we don't have hundreds of banks and credit unions on the platform as this sort of concept of AI-based lending really comes to fruition, and we can demonstrate to them that you can have a more inclusive set of lending programs, but at the same time, you can actually be more profitable. And that's a magic combination for banks.
That's why I say it's a kind of a wonderful story, because inclusion turns out to be, there's a lot of people who have been left out, and Upstart's bringing them back in. Dave, you are doing fantastic work, and I know you're also an upbeat, terrific, inspirational figure in business and in banking. Thank you so much for coming on Mad Money.
Thanks, Jim.
That's David Gerard. He's the founder and CEO of Upstart. By the way, another company that Mark Benioff introduced me to, and I can't believe how good it is. And they're going places. Mad Money's back after the break.
Coming up next.
Let's make money together. What do we got?
Cramer's bringing the thunder and answering your burning questions in today's edition of The Lightning Round. Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on Twitter. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadTweets. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.